Good morning, sixth graders, and welcome to week number 6. It's crazy that it's May and it's been beautiful weather outside this weekend, and I hope it continues all through the month so we can enjoy all of this beautiful weather. And the flowers are coming up. I hope you guys have gotten outside and enjoyed it. This week we are going to continue with aquatic biomes, but we're going to talk about two in particular. We're going to talk about estuaries, and we're going to talk about the wetlands. We also have a fun little experiment to demonstrate today later on in the video, and your assignment this week is going to be just a lab report over the demonstration lab that I show you. Stay tuned, and we're ready for the next episode. We are ready for Brain Science with Mrs. McLean, Season 1, Episode 6, Aquatic Biomes, Part 2 of 2. Wetlands are the first aquatic ecosystem that we're going to talk about in today's lesson. And wetlands are aquatic biomes with a thin layer of water that covers soil that is wet most of the time. So, say 95% of the time when you go, it's going to be wet or flooded. Wetlands can actually be either freshwater, saltwater, or a combination of both. And in these areas, you're going to find very high levels of biodiversity, which means a variety of living things, and also really rich nutrients. Because there's so much water in the soil and a lot of plant life, there's going to be a lot of nutrients. In wetlands, they have a variety of water-tolerant plants, and they also have a lot of insects. Another fun fact about wetlands are that a third of the North American bird species use wetlands for nesting and feeding grounds. Many animals use the wetlands for food, shelter, and areas of breeding. It just depends on what part of the United States you're going to find these wetlands. Depending on your location, you might find alligators, turtles, frogs, snakes, salamanders, and beavers. Wetlands for years were being destroyed and filled in and used to make cities and towns and roads, and now they're being preserved and restored. And we have our very own wetlands area here in Vigo County in West Terre Haute. It's called the Wabashiki Wetland and Nature Preserve. So if you ever have a chance, you could always go for your own mini field trip and check it out. The next aquatic ecosystem or biome that we're going to look at today are estuaries. And estuaries are very similar to wetlands areas, except for these are regions that are found only along coastlines. And they're going to be where streams and rivers flow into a body of salt water, like the ocean. Estuaries have a variety level of salinity. And salinity is just a big word for the concentration or the amount of salt in a body of water. And the salinity of an estuary is going to change depending on the amount of rainfall an area has, which would cause the salinity to go down because there's more fresh water going into that saltwater area. It depends on the amount of fresh water flowing from the river or stream. Again, the more fresh water coming in, the lower the salinity is going to be. And it can also depend on the amount of salt water that's being brought in from the tides. If the tide is high, that means there's more salt water coming in and the salinity is going to increase. Okay. Estuaries have a really important job on our coastal areas, and they keep those areas from flooding and erosion. They also really help to purify and filter a lot of pollution that would normally get sent into the ocean. Like the wetlands, estuaries have a really high level of biodiversity, meaning a ton of different plants and animals are going to live in this area. They also have really high nutrients. The variety of plants that you find in an estuary is going to be determined based on the salinity of that estuary. You are going to be able to find mangroves, which were in your journal writing last week, because those are found in saltwater. Animal species that you find in estuaries are basically species that we as humans use for food. You can find oysters, shrimps, crabs, clams, any crustacean is going to be found in an estuary. You may also find some ocean fish in estuaries because this is a safe place that they find to lay their eggs that keeps them away from the larger fish or sharks. You will also, just like the wetlands, find birds in estuaries because they use them for a nesting and feeding place. There has been over the years a lot of destruction of estuaries along the coastlines, and they've been destroyed so that humans can build up tourist attractions and hotels. Just like when you visit Florida, the coastline is all hotels. It's not an estuary that you would see. This has kind of gone downhill because humans have realized the importance of the estuaries and how it keeps the coastline from flooding and storm damage.
All right, sixth graders, we are going to do a little demonstration out here today. And we are going to look at how oceans and rivers come together and what happens when they do. So here on my table, I have a tub of water that has 2 pitchers full, and I have 1 pitcher of water. The tub, we are going to add 3/4 of a cup of salt to. And we're going to let it dissolve here in just a second. And we are going to pour it in to our tub of water. And I'm going to just stir it up. And I'm going to let that salt dissolve. Hey, Ruby. Our puppy dog came out. She likes to walk around a lot. She just had puppies back in March, and we had 5 little puppies. And 1 went home last week. Okay, while that's continuing to dissolve, we're going to take our other pitcher, my spoon, and we are going to add blue food coloring to it. I'm going to just add a few drops. You guys can see. And I'm going to stir it up. And these 2 containers are going to represent our 2 aquatic biomes that we are discussing this week. Okay, we're talking, there's the ocean, I guess we talked about it last week, the ocean and the river with the saltwater and freshwater. Okay, so our saltwater is looking pretty good. It's kind of cloudy and murky. I have always told you guys that you need to make sure you keep your constants during labs and things that we do during the year. And I put 2 pitchers of water versus 1 pitcher of blue water, or 2 pitchers of salt water versus 1 pitcher of blue water. And the reason for that is that the ocean, or our saltwater ecosystem, is so much larger than our blue or freshwater ecosystem. Okay, so I've done a 2-to-1 ratio. Okay, now that I have my 2 ecosystems or tubs of water ready, now we can mix them and see what happens. You should be predicting in your own mind what you think will happen when the freshwater and the saltwater come together. And you're gonna watch me pour it, and we're gonna let it sit for 5 minutes and then come back and see it and check on it. Okay, so I also have my timer ready. Okay. And the directions say to gently pour the colored water into 1 corner of the plastic tub. And it says to observe how the color of the water changes in the tub. And as you guys can see, I think you can see pretty clear on my video that the tub is pretty clear, maybe a little bit cloudy. There's a leaf. A little cloudy because of the salt. But let's pour it in very slowly. know if you guys can see that or not. Okay. It has mixed. I am going to set our timer for 5 minutes and we'll check back. Okay guys, we just have a second left and the timer's gonna go off. Okay, cancel. Oh, dismiss. Okay, and let's look at how the water has mixed. Okay, and you can see the dark blue color. Okay, remember how clear it was before and the color of blue that the fresh water represented. Okay, and if you need to rewind and look back and how we poured it in at the corner, I'm not sure how great you could see, but when we poured it in at the corner and how the water dissolved throughout or spread throughout the entire bucket. Okay, work on your lab report for the week, and I can't wait to read your journal writings. See ya. There you have it, 6th graders. I hope you enjoyed this week's video lesson. If you need to rewatch it a couple times while doing your assignment, then go ahead. It'll be there for you guys to review whenever you need to. As always, if you have any questions or you just need to talk, go ahead and shoot me an email. Have a great week. Bye.